Good morning, family. Gonna steal a stand. We are in our second week of our new series called Rhythms of Life. And this Sunday, we're going to go through two more spiritual practices that we can integrate into the rhythm of our lives for us to grow spiritually. What is the rhythm of life like for you these days? Are you keeping a steady rhythm? Or does your life feel like a crazy jazz solo with a whole lot of improvisation? I don't know about you, but the tempo of my life has tended to be rapidly accelerating tempo and crash, rapidly accelerating tempo and crash. I came across this card, actually, this Hallmark card, a few years ago, and I bought several copies to give to friends. A woman had called work-life balance consultants, and while she was on hold, she just retreated to the fetal position, curled up under her desk for a bit of a rest and retreat. I've heard it said, beware the barrenness of a busy life. And I've also heard it said, if the devil can't make you bad, he'll make you busy. And that's kind of the season that I found myself in, because often in those seasons at that tempo, joy is one of the first things to go. And this was the position that I was in, actually, in the middle of the day on my couch several weeks ago, shortly before Christmas, when the phone rang, and it was Pastor John asking if I would consider speaking this morning on the spiritual practice of joy. The irony was not lost on me as I was curled up on the couch. I was paralyzed by all that I needed to do, by the busyness of the season. I was feeling depleted. I was feeling overwhelmed. I was feeling sad, tired. And yet it was into this context that I agreed to speak on joy, not only to recalibrate my own joy at that time, but also because if there was one thing I knew to be true about joy is that it is supposed to transcend circumstance. And given my circumstance, I figured I had everything I needed to get started. As a society, we crave joy. We crave the fullness, the completeness that it brings. We long for that. I couldn't help but notice the number of Christmas cards that came in this year with the word joy on it. In fact, our own Christmas card had the word joy on it. I also couldn't help but notice that the new burrito restaurant that opened up the street from us had the word joy written in 4-foot-high letters on the wall. Wouldn't it be nice if you could receive joy by just opening a card or eating a burrito? But it is not that easy. Joy cannot be caught. In fact, the more we pursue joy in and of itself, the more it escapes us. And I have come to realize that that is because joy is a fruit, not a pursuit. It is the outcome of something else. In the Bible, the writer Paul lists 9 fruits of the Spirit, and joy comes second on the list, right after love. And also speaking of spiritual fruit, Jesus tells us in John 15, I am the vine, you are the branches. If you remain in me and I in you, you will bear much fruit. Apart from me, you can do nothing. Joy is anchored in the divine, and it is a very good thing that true joy is not of this world, because this world is broken. And because joy is not of this world, it can coexist alongside our suffering and adversity. Joy can be a companion to hardship. Looking up the word joy in Scripture is very interesting. It's remarkable how many times it's mentioned in the context of hardship or suffering. I'll give you a few examples. When anxiety was great within me, your consolation brought me joy. Psalm 94. Next one, consider it pure joy, my brothers, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. But this next verse is the one that impacted me most. For the joy set before him, Christ endured the cross, scorning its shame, and sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. Even in the context of suffering on the cross, Jesus endured for the joy set before him, the joy that is yet to come. He knew the joy that he would be making possible for all of us by absorbing our sin and our shame on the cross. And he also knew the joy that was awaiting him with his Father in heaven, the same joy that would await us who follow him. Joy is our inheritance. When it is minus 40 in the middle of winter, just the knowledge that summer is coming is often enough to get us to hunker down and see us through. And in the same way, in life's harsh moments, just knowing that the day is coming when he will wipe away every tear from every eye, and there will be no more sorrow, and there will be no more pain, can lift our focus too. This is the joy set before us. This is our inheritance that we can make withdrawals from even now here on earth. I had a group experience this summer that had quite harsh conditions, but at the same time was permeated by a remarkable joy. It was in the sweltering month of August in Nicaragua with a wonderful organization called One World Health. And I'm standing there in the front row holding a binder because since it was my third time serving with this organization, they asked if I would be the team leader for this particular trip. And it was a daunting task, considering that a large contingent of these volunteers were donors to the organization. And we recently, over the holidays, we had a reunion as a group. And one of the businessmen in this team, he confided in me that at the beginning of the trip, he had a little nickname for me that I hesitate to share with you. I cringe to share with you. It was unicorns and rainbows. And why are you laughing? But sometimes when you encounter someone who is cheerful, on first impression, you might consider their joy to be superficial or that they're somehow out of touch with the suffering and hardship of those around them. But the week of hard service in sweltering heat that we entered into tested the authenticity of everyone's joy in the group. And I would say joy prevailed. And more than prevailed, joy flourished. I'm also proud to share that in this team was a pharmacist, a nurse, and a physician right here from our very own family at the meeting place. Next slide, we've got Mark in the brown shirt writing up prescriptions. He was the only pharmacist on the team. He probably worked the hardest of everyone. We could have used 2 more of him. And then in the top, there's Zoe Reimer caring for a family at the nursing station, and Daryl Perry speaking to a patient with an interpreter. It was such a blessing to be able to serve alongside others from the TMP family. The next slide shows, though, some of the challenges that we faced as we served. The far left, there's some men trying to rig a fan on the ceiling to give us some reprieve from the heat. And the bottom right, it shows some of the bins that we had to lug in and out of these rural communities every day for this mobile clinic. But the top was probably the biggest challenge, was just meeting the needs of large numbers of people in a limited amount of time without compromising quality of care. We had all of this going on, and yet this particular team of volunteers had such a love for Christ and such a love for people that amidst all of this, joy abounded. I would like to introduce you to one of these volunteers. His name is Kevin. The stethoscope around his neck is for decoration only. He requested to be called Dr. K that week because in reality, he breeds hunting dogs. He's a Texan, kind of no-nonsense, tell it like it is Texan, who himself has known a lot of hardship in his life. He is anything but a unicorns and rainbows kind of guy. However, he left a wake of joy behind him by the way he did his singular job. What he did that week, his job was to usher the patients from the waiting area into the clinic. And what he would do was give them his arm. And old and young and like would take his arm as if they were the Queen of England. And when he walked them into the clinic, it was like they were walking down a red carpet. And there would often be titters and giggles in the crowd as he did so. And it was such a blessing to witness this. And joy is contagious. And so it was beautiful to witness how other people in the team, true to their own giftings, true to their own personalities, just went that extra mile in showing love for others. And the fruit of joy was everywhere. And the joy of the Lord truly was our strength. Demonstrating love for others is a tried and true way to produce joy. And when you are loving others along with others, this joy is multiplied. Hebrews 10, verse 24 and 25 says, "And let us consider how we may spur one another on toward love and good deeds, not giving up meeting together as some are in the habit of doing, but encouraging one another, and all the more as you see the day approaching." I'm going to leave you with 3 practical encouragements towards cultivating joy in the rhythm of our lives this week. First things first, spend time with the joy giver. When I was curled up in the fetal position on my couch that day, feeling depleted and wrecked, I knew that this is what I needed to do. Taking that time to spend time in prayer, in reading scripture, in worshiping, journaling, whatever that looks like, recalibrates us and aligns our life's rhythm to his every single time. Encouragement number 2, harness adversity to exercise your joy muscle. And we will probably have plenty of opportunity to do this even before the day is out. When encountering challenges this week, let them remind you that while things are not as they should be, they are also not as they will be. Let us fix our minds on the joy set before us. And the final encouragement is this week, maybe this day, surprise someone with joy. As I've said before, demonstrating love to others produces the fruit of joy. Loving others with others multiplies it even more. So you can be creative, maybe get together as a group and decide to take someone out for a burrito all together. I know a place. I don't know if it would fill you with joy, but it would fill you with something. Our joy is inextricably linked to expressing love to others. Jesus told his disciples, that's how we remain in him, the vine, by obeying his command to love. But what I love is what he says right after that. He said, I have told you this so that my joy may be in you and that your joy may be complete. Isn't that wonderful? He wants his joy to complete us. He's the only one who can. That's his motivation for us to obey him, that his joy would be in us and that our joy would be complete. Doesn't it make you want to follow someone like that? Doesn't it make you love him? May we bring joy to him now as we worship.